Ladies, is some people drain you without ever lifting a finger. They walk into a room and somehow make the air feel heavier. They know exactly how to make everything about them, your joy, your pain, even your silence. Because for them, control isn't just a habit, it's an obsession. And if you've ever dealt with a narcissist, you know this truth. They don't just want to be important to you. They want to be essential. But here's the thing, they're not. And the moment you stop feeding their need for control, you start to see just how fragile that towering ego really is. Making a narcissist miserable isn't about screaming at them or exposing them to the world. It's about knowing the pressure points they can't handle and taking away the power they never should have had in the first place. So let's talk about the 6 things they absolutely hate and how using them will not only shake their world but protect yours. When you're dealing with a narcissist, one of the most powerful things you can do is stop feeding their ego. That means refusing to hand over the fuel that keeps their entire identity running. Your constant admiration, your praise, your approval, and your willingness to agree with whatever they say just to keep the peace. A narcissist doesn't just enjoy attention. They depend on it. It's their oxygen. Every compliment, every "you are right," every moment you let them take center stage without challenge. It's like handing them another tank of air. They breathe it in, and it keeps their inflated sense of self alive. The tricky part is that they know exactly how to get it from you. They can charm, flatter, manipulate, guilt, trip, or provoke anything to get you reacting in a way that makes them feel important. And if you've been around them long enough, they've probably trained you little by little to give it without even realizing. You might have gotten used to the subtle pressure, the way they look for your approval before they move on, the way they angle conversations so the spotlight swings back on them, the way they dismiss your thoughts, unless it circles back to how great they are. Feeding their ego is like tossing scraps to a wild animal. At first, it feels harmless. It's easier to give them what they want than to deal with their sulking, their irritation, or their endless explanations of why you should see things their way. But the more you give, the more they expect, and the more they believe they're entitled to it. Soon, you find yourself trapped in a cycle where your role becomes keeping them comfortable, not speaking your mind, and sacrificing your own peace so theirs can stay intact. That's not a relationship. That's emotional servitude. The moment you stop feeding that ego, things change, but not for them first. They'll react. Yes, but the bigger change is in you. You start reclaiming mental space you didn't realize you were renting out to them for free. You stop weighing your words so heavily just to avoid offending their inflated self-image. You start realizing that your opinion, your approval, and your praise are valuable, and that not everyone deserves them. You get back in the driver's seat of your own emotional energy. Now, stopping the supply isn't about becoming cold, rude, or combative. It's about becoming neutral. Think of it like stepping out of a role in their play. They'll still try to deliver their dramatic lines, but you won't be there to clap or cry on cue. You'll just be sitting in the audience unmoved, watching them try to figure out why the applause isn't coming. Narcissists don't know what to do when they can't control how you respond. They expect either admiration or a fight, both of which keep them at the center. Silence, indifference, or a calm hymn, I see. It's something they can't use, and it drives them crazy. They may escalate at first. They might try harder to provoke you. They might bait you with insults disguised as jokes, with exaggerated stories about themselves, or with criticism aimed at making you defend yourself. This is where you need to remember that their reaction is proof that you're doing it right. They're not angry because you're wrong. They're angry because you're not playing. That reaction, those little flashes of frustration, is their ego gasping for air. By refusing to feed them, you force them to face something they can't stand. The reality that their worth isn't automatically recognized by everyone. And for someone whose self-image is built on a constant supply of validation, that's deeply unsettling. It's not your job to fix that discomfort for them. You didn't create their dependence on external praise, and you're not responsible for maintaining it. It's important to understand that pulling back your admiration doesn't mean withholding kindness. You can still be civil. You can still acknowledge someone's humanity without inflating their self-importance. The key is learning the difference between being respectful and being an enabler. Respect is given to everyone. Ego fuel is earned, and they haven't earned it. When you stop feeding their ego, you also stop living in their shadow. You start noticing how much more energy you have when you're not constantly walking on eggshells or calculating how to word something so they'll take it well. You have room to think about what you actually believe, what you actually want to say, and who you actually are without them shaping it to fit their narrative. That's freedom they never wanted you to have. Because the less dependent you are on their approval, the less control they have over you. You'll also start to see their behavior more clearly without the haze of flattery exchanges clouding the picture. You see the manipulation for what it is. You notice the patterns, the sudden interest in you only when they need something, the subtle digs when you're doing well, the complete disinterest in anything that doesn't revolve around them. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That awareness is the beginning of breaking free from their grip. Feeding their ego might keep things quiet in the short term, but it costs you in the long term. Every time you hand them another piece of your approval without them earning it, you shrink a little bit to make them feel bigger. Stop feeding that imbalance. Let their ego starve. Because a starving ego doesn't have the same power as a well-fed one. And a narcissist without power is just another person who has to face the reality that the world doesn't revolve around them. When you deal with a narcissist, boundaries aren't just helpful, they're survival. They're the walls that protect your mental health, your energy, and your sense of self. The moment you stop bending those boundaries to make them comfortable is the moment you change the rules of the entire relationship. Narcissists thrive when they can shift people around like chess pieces, strategically, effortlessly, without resistance. They test limits constantly, not because they don't know where the line is, but because they want to see if you'll move it for them. And if you do, even once, they'll take that as an open invitation to push further the next time. Boundaries to them are not something to respect. They're challenges to overcome. If they can convince you to ignore your own limits, they win. They get more access to your time, your emotions, your resources, and your attention. That's why holding your boundaries like a fortress is so crucial. A fortress doesn't apologize for existing. It doesn't explain why it's there or why its walls are high. It just stands unshaken no matter who approaches the gates. The first time you refuse to bend, expect resistance. Narcissists are used to getting their way with charm, guilt, or intimidation. They might laugh off your boundaries as if they're silly. They might try to reason with you, twisting logic until you second-guess yourself. Or they might go straight to aggression, accusing you of being selfish, cold, or dramatic. This isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's proof you're doing something right. They can feel the shift in power, and it unsettles them. When you hold firm, you send a clear, unspoken message. I'm not here to be controlled. That's the one thing they don't want to hear, because their entire strategy relies on your flexibility, on your willingness to bend under pressure. A rigid, consistent boundary is like a locked door. They can't pick. The more you reinforce it, the more frustrated they become because every failed attempt chips away at their belief that they own the board and you're just another piece in play. It's not about being harsh or unkind. It's about being consistent. You can calmly say no without raising your voice. You can refuse to explain yourself 100 different ways. You can repeat your stance word for word if they keep pressing. It's not the force of your delivery that matters. It's the immovability of your decision. Over time, they may try to find loopholes. They might attempt to go around your boundaries by using other people to get to you, by shifting tactics, or by testing smaller limits to see if you'll give in. This is why a fortress doesn't just have walls. It has guards. You have to be watchful. You have to notice when they're circling back in a different form. A boundary is only as strong as the consistency with which you enforce it. The beauty of holding your boundaries is that it changes how you see yourself. You start realizing you don't have to explain, justify, or defend your right to protect your own peace. You stop feeling guilty for saying no. You stop believing that being a good person means being endlessly available. And that's when something powerful happens. The game they've been playing starts falling apart. Not because you beat them at it, but because you stopped playing altogether. Narcissists are emotional chess players. They study you, learn your triggers, and figure out exactly what buttons to press to get the reaction they want. Sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's defensiveness, sometimes it's guilt, but whatever it is, the point is the same: to pull you into their chaos. Because as long as you're reacting, they're in control. They get to steer the conversation, dictate the tone, and frame the narrative. That's why one of the most effective ways to disarm them is to stop reacting and start responding. Reacting is instant. It's that flash of frustration when they insult you. It's the sharp comeback when they twist your words. It's the rush of defensiveness when they accuse you of something you didn't do. Reactions are emotional reflexes. They happen before you've had a chance to think. And narcissists count on that. They know that once they get you emotional, they've got the upper hand. They can point to your tone, your words, your overreaction as the real problem, instead of the fact that they provoked you in the first place. Responding, on the other hand, is deliberate. It's the pause before you speak. It's the deep breath before you answer. It's choosing words that move the conversation where you want it to go, not where they're trying to push it. When you respond instead of react, you deny them the satisfaction of controlling your emotional state. You become the calm center in the middle of their storm. Think of it like playing poker. A good poker player never lets their face reveal the strength of their hand. No raised eyebrows, no smirks, no tells, just calm, steady focus. Now, combine that with the unshakable presence of a brick wall, solid, immovable, unaffected by what's thrown at it. That's the energy you want when you're dealing with a narcissist. They might throw accusations at you to get you flustered. They might try to bait you with exaggerated claims or bring up old wounds to stir up emotion, but when you stay calm, you take away their favorite weapon, your emotional volatility. It's like trying to start a fire with wet matches. They keep striking, but nothing ignites. This doesn't mean you have to be expressionless or robotic. It means you choose your emotional expressions with intention. You don't give them out for free. You don't let them see which arrows hit the mark. If you're upset, you process it later somewhere safe with people you trust. In the moment, you keep your composure. That composure isn't weakness, it's strategy. At first, they might try harder. They'll push the boundaries of decency to get you to crack. They'll repeat themselves, get louder, or say things so outrageous you're tempted to drop your calm just to call them out. But if you stay in control, something shifts. They start realizing the old tricks aren't working. The hooks they used to reel you and aren't catching anymore. And that's when their control begins to slip. Responding instead of reacting also keeps you from giving them ammo. When you blow up, they can use your reaction as proof you're unstable or the problem. When you stay calm, all they're left with are their own words and actions on full display. Without your emotional fireworks to distract from them, that's not a stage they enjoy standing on. Over time, your calm becomes something they can't penetrate. They may not like it, but they'll learn that no matter how much chaos they create, you're not stepping into it with them. And once they realize they can't control how you feel, they lose one of their biggest sources of power. Narcissists collect information like ammunition. Every detail you share, every personal story you reveal, every offhand comment you make, they file it away for later use. Sometimes it's to make themselves look better by comparison. Sometimes it's to twist your words into something damaging. And sometimes it's just to stir the pot when they're bored. The more they know about your life, the more opportunities they have to control the narrative about you. That's why one of the smartest moves you can make is to keep your personal life locked down and give them absolutely nothing to gossip about. Gossip is one of their favorite tools because it works on multiple levels. It lets them play the concerned friend while spreading half-truths. It allows them to undermine your credibility without confronting you directly. And most of all, it keeps them relevant. They position themselves as someone in the know, someone who has the inside scoop on you. The moment you cut off that supply, you take away their ability to play that role. The trick is to master the art of saying little while seeming like you're saying a lot. You can be friendly without being revealing. You can nod along in conversation, offer general comments, and still keep your private life completely out of reach. When they ask about your plans, you keep it vague, just keeping busy. When they fish for details about your relationships, you give them nothing concrete. We're doing fine. When they press for specifics, you change the subject or toss the question back at them. At first, they might not notice. They might assume you're just being casual, but over time, they'll realize you're not giving them anything they can use. No drama, no confessions, no vulnerable moments they can twist into gossip fodder. And that's when you'll see the frustration kick in. They'll start probing harder, maybe even inventing stories to bait you into correcting them. That's a trap. Don't take it. Correcting false information still feeds them because it tells them you're listening and reacting. Silence or a shrug is far more powerful. Keeping your life locked down also means being intentional about what you share in public spaces, social media, group chats, even casual hangouts. Narcissists can't twist what they don't have, and they can't gossip convincingly without details. The less there is out there, the more they have to fill in the blanks themselves. And that guesswork drives them crazy. Here's the thing. Gossip only works when there's an audience willing to believe it. When you carry yourself with consistency and integrity, people notice. They'll start to question the narcissist stories because they don't line up with what they've seen from you. And without fresh material, the narcissist's inside scoop starts to sound stale, repetitive, and suspicious. You're not just protecting yourself. When you keep things private, you're shifting the power dynamic. You're taking away one of their easiest weapons and forcing them to work with nothing. And for someone who thrives on control through information, that's like asking them to fight a battle with an empty arsenal. Narcissists operate like unpredictable weather. One moment, they're sunny and charming. The next, they're cold, stormy, and lashing out. That unpredictability is intentional. It keeps people off balance. If you never know what version of them you're going to get, you end up adjusting yourself constantly to avoid conflict, to earn their approval, or to calm their temper. And that's exactly the pattern they want. You shifting while they remain the center of control. The most powerful way to break that cycle is to stay consistent, no matter their mood. Imagine a lighthouse during a storm. The waves crash, the wind howls, the rain comes sideways, but the light never flickers. It's the same strength, the same direction, no matter what's happening around it. That's how you have to be when you deal with a narcissist. Your tone, your boundaries, your behavior, all steady, all predictable, all rooted in who you are, not in how they're acting. Consistency robs them of one of their favorite tactics: emotional whiplash. They count on the fact that when they're angry, you'll tiptoe. When they're sweet, you'll open up. When they're distant, you'll chase. But if you respond the same way regardless of their mood, you stop giving them those small wins. Your reactions no longer feed the game. This doesn't mean ignoring them entirely or pretending their behavior doesn't exist. It means you stop letting it dictate yours. If you've decided you speak calmly, you keep speaking calmly, even if they're shouting. If you've set a boundary, you enforce it, even if they're suddenly acting like your best friend again. If you've chosen not to share personal details, you stick to that even when they're in a rare, trustworthy mood. At first, they might push harder. They'll throw bigger storms to see if they can finally knock you off your footing. They'll test your limits with kindness and cruelty alike, trying to find a crack in your steadiness. This is where you have to remind yourself that their mood is not your responsibility. You didn't cause it, and you can't control it. Your job is to keep your own side of the street clean, no matter what's happening on theirs. Staying consistent also protects your sense of self. When you're not constantly bending to match someone else's emotional weather, you start to feel grounded again. You remember what you stand for, how you want to act, and what kind of person you choose to be. That's the opposite of what a narcissist wants. Because the less reactive you are to their mood swings, the less power they have over you. A lighthouse doesn't try to calm the sea, it simply shines. And when you stand like that, unshaken, unwavering, and consistent, they realize they can't control your direction, no matter how hard they try to shake you. The one thing a narcissist cannot stand is irrelevance. As long as they can believe you need them, miss them, or depend on them, they can hold on to a sense of importance in your life. That's why living well without them is the ultimate blow. It strips away the illusion that they are central to your happiness. When you thrive without their presence, it forces them to face a truth they spend their entire lives trying to avoid. They are not as necessary or powerful as they think they are. Living well without them isn't about pretending. It's not about crafting a fake highlight reel to make them jealous. It's about genuinely building a life that's full, healthy, and satisfying. One that no longer revolves around their moods, demands, or manipulations. It's about putting your focus back where it belongs on you. That means investing your energy into your own goals, relationships, and growth, instead of burning it all up trying to navigate their chaos. At first, they may not believe it. They'll assume it's an act, or that you're just trying to get a reaction. They might even try to pull you back in with sudden bursts of charm, unexpected kindness, or fake concern for how you're doing. But as you stay steady and keep moving forward, they'll begin to realize they no longer have the same pull they once did. And that's what really gets under their skin. Not your anger, not your confrontation, but your indifference. Living well also means refusing to let them live rent-free in your mind. You don't measure your progress by how much it would impress or irritate them. You don't tailor your choices to send them a message. You stop seeing your life as a way to prove a point and start seeing it as something you get to shape for yourself. That shift in mindset is powerful because it moves you out of the role of reacting to them and into the role of creating for yourself. Happiness without them dismantles one of their favorite narratives that you wouldn't survive, succeed, or matter without their presence. Success without them proves they were never the source of your strength to begin with. Peace without them shows that their chaos was never necessary. And when you're truly unbothered, it communicates something no speech or confrontation ever could be. They have no control here anymore. You won't need to announce it. You won't have to flaunt it. The life you live will speak for itself, and nothing makes a narcissist more uncomfortable than watching someone they once tried to control walk away and become the best version of themselves, completely outside their reach. When it comes to making a narcissist miserable, it's not about revenge in the loud, dramatic sense they'd expect. It's about quietly dismantling the levers they've been pulling and the buttons they've been pushing. You don't win by out-shouting them, out-manipulating them, or trying to change them. You win by removing the fuel they run on. You win by standing firm in your boundaries, keeping your life private, refusing to be pulled into emotional chaos, and living fully on your own terms. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't just make them miserable, it makes you stronger. Every time you choose calm over chaos, self-respect over approval, and growth over control, you're not just taking away their power, you're reclaiming your own. And in the end, the greatest victory you can have over a narcissist is not proving them wrong. It's proving to yourself that you never needed them to be whole in the first